If you look very closely at how games are designed, you can see all the connections and patterns that make a potential experience logical, seamless, and possibly even artistic or fun. People, especially gamers, may enjoy picking these design choices apart for the purpose of bending the rules of a game to try something different, or to use it as an allegory of life where every decision we make counts. Basically, The Stanley Parable, an interactive fiction video game released in 2013, is a commentary on game design and the nature of choice. Originally designed as a modification to the popular first-person shooter Half-Life 2, The Stanley Parable tells the simple story of a man named Stanley who works in an office doing simple and repetitive tasks on a computer. After an extensive period of work, Stanley finds himself out of his comfort zone as the computer goes blank. Plus, the office is suddenly devoid of people. Stanley decides to explore the building only to find some extremely surreal, strange, and occasionally disturbing things. All of this happens while a deadpan narrator commentates on the action, and apparently Stanley, and of course you the player, can hear this.
Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking?
In contrast to the popular Half-Life games and other similar games made with the Source engine, The Stanley Parable does not feature combat or action sequences that would normally raise a person's adrenaline. The controls only involve a W, A, S, and D keys and a mouse button to move and press buttons. This means that the player can navigate the environment very easily at a leisurely pace. The game's production values are also very similar to other games made with the Source engine, in which the environments look fairly realistic. Well, the setting is an office, so it has to be. The soundtrack is not too bad either, and the voice work by Kevin Brighting is wonderful. The game does lack much of the physics that made the Half-Life games so well received, especially in the modification communities, but that makes the game simple to play without being pathetically easy, and above all, allows the story and the decisions the player makes to be the core of the experience. As alluded to earlier, this game is a commentary on game design. In fact, designer Davey Redden made The Stanley Parable not only to practice his skills in pursuit of a career in the gaming industry, but also to mess around with how a game can progress. There are a huge number of games, especially story-driven ones that are linear, and mostly resort to a get from point A to point B approach. A lot of these games can also include side content that can alter a game's mechanics or difficulty, as well as potentially fulfill a person's perfectionist desire for completion. However, it seems as if The Stanley Parable fused the linear approach and side content into one. This is primarily accomplished with a deadpan narration. The narrator will direct Stanley, usually with a third-person prose, but the player actually has the option to ignore the narrator's direction. One of the key junctions in this game is when you come across two open doors and the narrator says,
"When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left."
However, you have the option to go through the door on your right, and should you do so, the narrator gets annoyed and even tries more than once to direct you back to a hallway through the left door. It has to be said here and now, this game is hilarious. The narration is not only deadpan, but also witty and full of non sequiturs. It's hard not to chuckle at moments where the narrator acts very exasperated or worried.
Oh, thank God you are willing to listen to me. Oh no, what are you doing, Stanley? Please, I'm asking you not to take this away from me.
He sometimes even breaks the fourth wall.
You're not Stanley. You're a real person.
Aside from the narration, the visuals are also used to commentate on game design. Without spoiling too much, you will come across many secrets in the game, including artwork and documents about how the game was made. You can also take your time and read some of the words and papers lying around, which vary from amusing to thought-provoking. Basically, this game is a follow the directions or don't game, where you encounter different types of endings. How much you explore effectively changes the outcome. And after seeing an ending, you will start back at Stanley's desk and get the opportunity to go in a different direction at your own discretion. This also results in retracing your steps before coming to a specific junction of your choice. But thankfully, the narrator takes note of this and changes his words and even delivery slightly, which is consistently funny.
Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk.
Some of these endings, and indeed large portions of the game, are decidedly surreal and strange. You will explore environments that do not even vaguely resemble the interior of an office building. Words such as odd, abstract, strange, different, and unique come to mind, and that may not appeal to you. This, however, feels like a deliberate decision to make games more of an art form, and it works. Speaking of games being an art form, how you'll feel while playing the Stanley Parable may be extremely subjective. At its simplest, the game gives you freedom to explore while mocking the get from point A to point B approach that some may find too restrictive in hugely popular AAA games. But it's really the game's subject matter of choice, consequences, and making decisions that makes the game a work of art. At one point, the narrator asks why Stanley stayed in his comfort zone and just worked long hours at an office computer instead of, well, doing something else. Anyone who's interested in existentialism, philosophy, and how and why we make the decisions that we make may interpret the subject matter in interesting ways. Anyone who works, past or present, in an office and is essentially unhappy with the direction their life is going may potentially wish for an adventure that vaguely resembles the one in this game. The writer of this review bears no responsibility for any office workers quitting their jobs. And of course, anyone who is interested in game design, whether it's a linear adventure or a large world where you have the option to mostly ignore the main storyline, will surely love this. There are a few references to video games and their design that non-gamers/first-time gamers may not understand, but overall, this is a funny and thought-provoking game. Some may not like how simplistic the Stanley Parable is with its controls and its lack of adrenaline-filled action sequences, and even if you can get past the strange ideas and subject matter, it is hard to excuse the game's biggest flaw. The game is short, and it doesn't take long to see most of the multiple endings, if not all of them. Therefore, it is recommended as much as possible to get this game on sale. There is also a free demo which gives a pretty good indication of what the actual game is like. Still, with the funny deadpan narration, simple exploration and controls, and its unique game design and subject matter, the Stanley Parable is a stellar game, and a work of art that could potentially make you feel something, small or big, and could even potentially affect your life. Maybe. This is something that other artistic mediums can only dream of, plus other game designers could learn a thing or two from the Stanley Parable.
I'll say it, this is the worst adventure I've ever been on.